Assalamualaikum and good morning class. Today you're going to learn about unspecialized plant cells. Okay, unspecialized plant cells. So after this class you may talk to the plants outside your house. Okay, it's very interesting to learn about, to study about plants. Alright, now basically this is the organization of a simple plant. Okay, it has the shoot system and the root system. Now when it comes to the root system, okay, this is the primary root, okay, the akar utama. This is the primary root, and then you can see there are branches of root here. Okay, so this is the root branch, right? Branch root. Okay, and then from the root branch, right, the root further extended, right? So these are known as the root hairs, extensions from the root branch. Okay, we have the root hairs. Now when it comes to the root system, okay, now we have this area here known as the node, right? One node, or each node has an axillary bud. Okay, so it can be more than one axillary bud. Okay, so one node or each node has axillary buds or buds. Okay, now between one node with another node is an internode. Okay, so ini internode, ini pun internode. Now the place where we have this internode and node, okay, is known as the stem. Where's my mouse cursor? Okay, so this is the stem. Okay, next, the water and food transport system, right, or the transportation system in a plant is known as the vascular tissues, right? So these vascular tissues will form the transportation system inside a plant. This is the vascular tissues. Now let's take a look at the top here. We have the axillary bud. Okay, axillary means tepi, sisi. Okay, this is terminal bud. Okay, atas, terminal. Ataupun utama, bud utama, right? So this is terminal bud, and then when it comes to the leaf, right, the leaf is divided into the blade. Ini yang blade, okay, down tu punya structure yang macam kertas tu, blade. This is the leaf vein, right, and this is the petiole. Apa? Pucuk down, tangkai down. Sorry, tangkai down. Right, that is the petiole. Now, just some recap on what you have learned previously in your secondary education, right? So this is the type of seeds, root, how they look like, the stem, right, the leaf, vein, and then the flower parts in a monocotyledonous plant. All right, and this is in an eudicots. Right, now class, dicots and eudicots, they are similar but not the same. Right, there are many subsections under dicots. Right, one of them is eudicots. Got it? Okay. So eudicots has two cotyledons seeds. All right, two cotyledon in seeds, while the monocot only has one cotyledon in their seeds. Look at their root xylem and phloem. Okay, very different between monocots and eudicots. Okay, so kalau akar tumbuhan monocot, if you make a cross section, this is what you would expect, the arrangement of the xylem and phloem, which is in a ring. Right, but for eudicots, okay, this is what you would expect to see. Okay, this is xylem. Yang tengah-tengah ni xylem. Yang tepi ni ialah phloem. Right, it's a phloem. Yang biru ni phloem. Yang merah ni ialah xylem. Now, when it comes to the stem, a cross section of the stem, all right, the vascular bundles in monocots are scattered. Okay, but for eudicots, Alright, the vascular bundles are in a distinct ring. Boleh nampak kan? Sangat jauh beza. Then when it comes to the vein, alright, obviously monocots they have parallel pattern of vein, leaf vein, alright, while in eudicots their leaf veins is in a net pattern. Okay, then when it comes to flower parts, okay, for monocots they are in 3 or multiple of 3. Okay, whereas in eudicots they are in 4 or 5s and the multiples of 4 or 5. Okay, so now you know. Alright, unspecialized cells in plants. Okay, so these unspecialized cells in plants are known as meristematic cells. Okay, and found in the meristem. Now, what is meristem? It is a localized tissue that forms new cells by mitosis or mitotic division. Okay, now these unspecialized cells in plants, all right, all these meristematic cells, they are young cells that not differentiated and retain ability to divide by mitosis. Maksudnya meristematic cell ni dia belum lagi jadi xylem, belum jadi phloem, belum jadi epidermis. Okay, they are young cells that is not yet differentiated. Alright, so since these meristematic cells, they are very young, okay, and not yet differentiated. If you look at this diagram here, okay, these meristematic cells, they have very thin, alright, primary cell wall, right, very thin primary cell wall. Alright, so since the primary cell wall is very thin, so this meristematic cells are easily damaged and nutrients are easily diffused, okay, either out or into the cells, the meristematic cells. And then another factor, another prominent feature of this meristematic cell is their nucleus, which is very large and prominent. Prominent means very obvious, ketara kan, tengok nucleusnya besar-besar dan sangat ketara. Okay, and then these nucleus are large in such a way, alright, to make sure this meristematic cells are ready to start mitosis. Okay, and then the cells, the meristematic cells are compact and are close together. Okay, so they are large, there are almost no spaces between them. Alright, now there are two types of meristem. Okay, we go to the first one, the apical meristem. Alright, this apical meristem, also known as the primary meristem. Now, this primary meristem can be found at the tips of the roots. Boleh nampak di sini. Okay, oh sorry, sini. Okay, at the tips of the root. Sini. This is the root cap. Alright, the root cap is root cap. It is not part of the apical meristem. So this is where the apical meristem, when it is located at the tips of the root, right? And then this apical meristem that is found at the tips of the root is known as the root apical meristem. Okay, root apical meristem. And then the meristem that is found at the shoot apex, right? This apical meristem is known as the shoot apical meristem. Right? Very obvious. Shoot apical meristem meaning to say itu ialah meristem yang dijumpai di kawasan shoots. Okay, and obviously, alright, root apical meristem meaning to say apical meristem that is found in the roots. Okay, and then this apical meristems, they have regular spherical shape. Boleh nampak ah? They are regular spherical shape. Okay, the regular spherical shape, cuma terlampau kecil tu yang ternampak tu. Right, regular spherical shape. This is the root cap. Alright, cap. This is the root apical meristem and this is the shoot apical meristem. Okay, now gambar aja root tip yang sebenar. Right, so this is the root cap. Boleh nampak ah? Very obvious. Di dalam sini, okay, which was being hidden, right? Or your view is being obstructed by this root gap. This way, you have the root apical meristem. All right, an area of cell division. This is the area of cell elongation, apparently. Okay, and this is the area of cell maturation. Yes, very obvious because we have these root hairs. Meaning to say, the root meristem already differentiated into root hairs, and some even differentiated into the root cap. Okay, and then this apical meristem, always remember class, all right, this apical meristem responsible for primary growth in plants, meaning to say the increase in length of root and stem. Okay, the increase in length of root and stem. Okay, they are primary growth. Now, next, I said earlier, there are two types of meristem, right? Okay, the other one is the lateral meristem or secondary meristem. Now, the secondary meristem, okay, is responsible for the secondary growth in plant, right? So, what is secondary growth? It is the increase, right? It is the increase in the girth of a plant. Okay, maksudnya primary growth ditambah kepanjangan, alright, ini menyebabkan tumbuhan itu meninggi. Secondary growth dia menyebabkan bertambahan size diameter stem atau diameter akar tumbuhan. Okay, so dia membesar lah, dia melebar. Okay. Now, this lateral meristem located at the entire length of stems and roots except at the tips, because at the tips we have the primary meristem. Okay, so apparently lateral meristem dijumpai di seluruh bahagian sisi tumbuhan. Okay, di stem ataupun di roots, except di tip saja. Boleh nampak yang ini? Right, so this lateral meristem will cause the secondary growth in plants. Okay, the secondary meristem, right, or lateral meristem, produce tissues composed of wood and bark. Okay, produce tissues composed of wood and bark. Now, to explain about this wood and bark, right, we further dig, right, into this lateral meristem, which is further divided into vascular cambium and Cork cambium. Now, vascular cambium, okay, forms the secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Okay, you can see this vascular cambium here. Bahkan yang merah ni, vascular cambium. Okay, forms the secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Okay, next, Cork cambium. Boleh nampak tak Cork cambium ni? Okay, this Cork cambium forms the suberized cork cells and cork parenchyma cells. Okay, I will further explain this in the next slide. Okay, now if you see the word leaf primordia, alright, it is developing leaves arise from the shoot apical meristems. Okay, so this is the leaf primordia. Okay, developing leaves right from the shoot apical meristem. Now, let's study more detail about this meristem thing. Right now, the apical meristem, okay, differentiate into three types of meristem. Okay, apical meristem differentiate into three types of meristem. Okay, those three types of meristem is the protoderm. Okay, you can see the protoderm, and then the ground meristem, kawasan ni. Okay, and then procambium. Procambium. Okay, tiga ni. Now, protoderm, okay, lies around the outside of the stem. Nampak kan protoderm ni? Okay, so from protoderm ni, what can we get? Okay, this protoderm will develop into epidermis. So whenever you see epidermis, it came from the protoderm, or it developed from the protoderm. Okay. Now this epidermis or epidermal tissues, right? It forms the outer protective covering of a plant and transparent to allow light to pass through. Okay. Now, epidermal cells of aerial parts secrete waxy cuticle to reduce water loss from the plant surface. And then this is the characteristic of the epidermis, okay, which was developed from the protoderm. So the epidermal cell of the aerial parts of the plant will secrete waxy cuticle to reduce water loss from the plant surface. Now some epidermal cells contains trichome, alright, trichome, to reduce water loss, okay, and as protective function. Some epidermal cells also contain root hairs, okay, and gut cells. Now, the root hairs is a simple unbranched trichome that increase the root epidermis surface area for more effective water and mineral absorption. Right, and then the gut cells, right, is for gaseous exchange. Okay. Now, next is the ground meristem. Yang ini. Okay, ground meristem. Okay, semua termasuk yang ini. Ini pun ground meristem, right? Ini pun ground meristem. So this ground meristem develops into ground tissue. Okay, ground tissue, cortex, and pit. So ground tissue, okay, di sini. Ini ground tissue, cortex, and pit. Masih semua kawasan yang kuning ni, ini develop daripada ground meristem. Okay, boleh faham? Alright. And then this procambium, yang orange ini, right, develops into vascular tissues. Now, when it comes to vascular tissues, these vascular tissues transport water and nutrients, right, and provide support to the plant as well. Okay, and when it comes to vascular tissue, I'm sure you have learned they consist of the primary xylem. Okay, tengok balik vascular tissue ni, consists of the primary xylem, primary phloem, okay, and then vascular cambium and Cork cambium. Okay, so ini vascular cambium. Okay, Cork cambium dia tunjuk di sini. Okay. Class, please make proper rectify in your module, right, about this diagram. This diagram was taken from the Campbell book. Yang biru ni, right, ini sepertinya warna merah ni. This is supposed to be red in color, right, to correspond with the primary xylem. Primary xylem kan merah di sini. So this is correct. This is primary xylem. This should be red, alright, and this should be labeled as primary xylem. Okay, yang merah ni sepatutnya orang biru. This is supposed to be blue in color, and this is the primary phloem. Alright, so kawasan ni dia salah color. This is correct. Okay, so this is the primary phloem, which is blue here. Now, lateral meristems are divided into, vascular cambium and Cork cambium. Okay, so lateral meristems divided into vascular cambium and Cork cambium. And if you recall, both vascular cambium and Cork cambium, they are developed from the procambium. Okay, they develop from the procambium. So now, vascular cambium, it is the layer of meristematic cells that forms a long, thin, continuous cylinder within the stem. Okay, within the stem. Berapakah yang ini? Vascular cambium. This is the vascular cambium. Right. Layer of meristematic cells that forms a long, thin, continuous cylinder within the stem and roots. And this vascular cambium located between the wood. Okay, this is the wood and the bark of a woody plant. So di sini vascular cambium antara wood dengan bark of woody plant. Now, division of cells of the vascular cambium adds more cells to the wood, okay, and the inner bark. Bark ni pula ada dua, outer bark and inner bark. So they receive their cells from the vascular cambium. Right. Now, to be more specific, right, this vascular cambium adds more cells to the secondary xylem, right, and secondary phloem, okay, in the inner bark. So, since this vascular cambium, alright, adds more cell to the secondary xylem in the wood and more cell to the secondary phloem in the inner bark, this vascular cambium produce or develop secondary xylem and secondary phloem. Right. Now, herbal plants, they do not go through secondary growth. Okay. Okay, so that's about vascular cambium. Now, the cork cambium. Okay, so we already covered about this vascular cambium here. Okay, you can see the structure here. This is the vascular cambium that adds more cell to the secondary phloem, right? Because it forms the secondary phloem. So this is the secondary phloem, and this is the secondary xylem. Okay. So now, where is the primary xylem and the primary phloem? This is the primary xylem. Okay, and this is the this is the primary phloem. Primary phloem, right? And then more cells are being added to the primary phloem to form the secondary phloem by the vascular cambium. The same goes for the primary xylem, right? The formation of the secondary xylem is from the addition of cells from the vascular cambium. Now, the cork cambium, nampak ni, cork cambium, yang ini, this layer, right? This layer. This cork cambium, right, it's a thin cylinder, right, of irregular arrangement of meristematic cells located in the outer bark. If you recall here, this is the outer bark, right? Right, this outer bark. Right, now, okay, cork cambium located in the outer bark. Now, this cork cambium form the suberized cork cells. Can you see these cork cells here? Right, cork cells toward the outside, and one or more underlying layers of cork parenchyma cells. So this is the cork cells. Okay, and this is the cork parenchyma cells. Okay, cork parenchyma eventually akan jadi cork cells. Right, so cork cambium produce cork parenchyma and cork cells. Now, this cork cambium give rise to meristem. So this is known as the meristem. Okay, or the outer bark. Right, outer bark ni juga nama dia ialah meristem. Now, this meristem replace the epidermis in a plant with secondary growth. So any plant with secondary growth, okay, they don't have epidermis. Instead, it is being replaced with meristem. Okay, berkayu ni, this meristem. So collectively, cork cells, okay, cork cells, cork cambium, and cork parenchyma make up the meristem. Okay, so meristem ni terdiri daripada cork cells, okay, cork cells, cork parenchyma, and then the cork cambium. Alright, that's it for today. Okay, hopefully you really understood about these unspecialized cells in plant.